Just because you're little, you can do a lot. You mustn't let a little thing like little stop you.
There you go.
Oh my God, do we have a Matilda stan in the house today?
Maybe a little bit.
Wow, we love to see. Welcome back to another episode of Showgays, a movie musical podcast. This week, we are talking about Roald Dahl's Matilda the musical, the movie.
Cine musical podcast. I'm going to continue to push for that rebrand.
Yeah.
Well, we'll do the rebrand after. You know what? We'll announce
after
it
at the Showies. We'll announce huge announcement. So the Showies this year is going to be part awards, part Apple keynote address.
Apple keynote showing the new features.
Showing the new features of the pod.
Showcase.
RJ, how are you?
I'm good. I am exhausted. We just did a full week workshop of my play.
Yes, it's true.
And it went great. It was much fun.
It went for sure, yeah.
Oh, girl, if you only saw Adam's little crying ass on the front row, honey.
And when Dear Maria play?
Yes, Hail Mary Maria. I mean, Adam will tell you the play has been.
She's a different girl than when I read her first.
Oh yeah,
she's a changed girl since that first time.
I read her a couple years ago now. Maybe I think I was in Madison. I read it. It was beautiful then. I'm sure it remains beautiful, but new iterations.
Yeah. So excited about that. I've been editing the pro shot because we filmed it. So
did you get the license to do that?
Absolutely.
From MTI?
For myself. Yeah. I gave myself I billed myself. So once that link, I'll be sure to share it to you because I would love for you to see how far it's come. But it was fun. My friends were in town from high school. So we gallivanted throughout the streets of Chicago. Closed. I thought I closed down the place, but it turns out my friend stayed later the night before they left. Because I thought we stayed up pretty late that first night that they were here, but
did you know that there are times after midnight? That might be what's tripping you up. Yeah.
It keeps going after
it becomes midnight. Resets. I know.
Wow.
There's a bar here in our neighborhood where you can bring your own food, which is nice. So it was a midnight decision. We're like, well, this pizza meeting house. So we were like, this pizza place is closing.
Don't dox yourselves.
Adam will bleep it.
Sure.
No, I won't.
So we bought a pizza right at midnight and then ate it at the bar.
Why would I bleep one of our local queer establishments?
Yes,
support.
Absolutely. And then the next day we went back to that bar for a very difficult game of trivia. We were like, this is intense. I can't, this is too much.
It's been a while since I did bar trivia.
There were logic puzzles.
Yeah, they had logic puzzles. And it was actually funny because it was these are the 4 hosts. These are the 4 lubes that they each bought.
Excuse me?
These are 4. These are 4.
It's the full grid.
4 prices, and you have to match who bought what at what cost, and then they gave you word clues Crystal bought boy butter. Jan bought
something that was
$5 more. Yeah. It was crazy. We were like, how? This is intense. I mean, I was here for
I want to come to this. I want to come to this bar trivia. By the way, may be in Chicago in October.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we're out of town the whole month.
Fun.
Molly, that's we can record. No, we can't. Never mind.
Oh, you thought it was going to be Showies?
I thought that was Showies, but it's not.
Showies
is November, famously.
Showies is November. People stay tuned every November.
I mean, we pull huge ratings for the Showies.
Yeah. Obviously, it's everyone's highlight.
It's the social event of the season.
If we ever did a bonus episode where it's we didn't watch a movie, I think it would be fun to do a Showgays trivia where we ask each other questions.
Do you remember when I did quizzes on 2 episodes of this podcast?
Yeah,
I did one for the Wiz.
Okay.
And I asked New York questions.
Okay.
And then I did one for, what was the first show we did when we came back? Cats. I think I did a Cats one. I asked the different names of cats.
You did play a little trivia.
That was fun.
but it was very hard to do themed trivia each time. So I was like,
listen, it's not easy. It's not easy being a trivia girly.
It's not. It's true. And Molly, how are you?
I'm great. Nothing going on with me.
Okay, great. Anything in the mailbox? Anything in the...
Oh, we do. We do have some mailboxes.
She's always shocked that I ask.
I forget that's my job. I see them when they come in, and then I forget.
Do you do a little flag on your inbox?
I do. I star and I also leave them on red. Bryce wrote in saying...
Dallas Howard?
Amazing.
Ron Howard's daughter?
I have no additional information on Bryce. Oh my God. Hi, hope y'all are well, and spelled y'all YAWL, which I love.
Yowl.
I'm so gagged that this was some of y'all's first time watching the best DComs. Adam, in reference to Cheetah Girls. Adam is right that Halloween Town is even better.
Not all that jazz. That wasn't the DCom they were referring to.
No, I forgot to redo the subject line. Is Cheetah Girls is the context of this. ZOMBIES 3 is facing tough competition. Just inquiring if y'all have heard of one of the most cheerful, fun, touching movies of the last 5 years. What do you think that Bryce is going to ask us to watch?
The last 5 years?
The last 5 years.
Is it fucking Willy Twinkie Wonka?
It's Twonka. Watch Twonka.
The girls are clamoring for Twonka.
They're clamoring.
Oh my God.
Girl, we'll just tell you right now, it's our December 15th episode, okay? We're just going to announce it right now.
We'll do Twonka.
I guess we have to commit at this point, yeah.
It's going to be Wicked and then Twonka, okay? Everybody's happy.
Bryce says, it kind of has everything, like a take on illiteracy, dancing in quotation marks, and just joy.
I mean, that was Annie 2014 too. So really,
wait a minute.
That's interesting.
That's interesting.
Have you ever seen those two movies in the same room at the same time?
Yeah, I've never seen those two movies in the same place.
So yeah, I guess we have to watch Twonka. Is what I'm telling you. Unfortunately,
we're bummed.
Yeah,
and how very fitting as we have watched a Roald Dahl today.
Really racking them up.
That's it. That's it for the mailbox.
That's it for the mailbox.
Okay, thank you, postman. You can go now. Don't. Let me do some Foley work of you leaving the room.
Wow,
don't be shy. Don't be shy, divas.
Yeah,
to write in.
Yeah.
Drag us to filth.
Or tell us the first time you ever saw one of the movies that we've watched. Where were you when Cheetah Girls dropped?
Mm-hmm. RJ, this week we watched Roald Dahl's Matilda the Musical, and you have to summarize it in a minute or less. Okay. Your time starts now.
Matilda Wormwood, a smart and imaginative girl who loves to read books and tell stories, has been despised by her parents since she was born. An inspector forces the Wormwoods to admit Matilda to Trunchbull Hall, a school where the sweet Miss Honey teaches and where the villainous Agatha Trunchbull serves as headmistress. Matilda stands out as a girl with so much brains and who isn't afraid to speak out against Trunchbull, who hates children and treats them all like sinful maggots. She finds solace in Miss Honey, who is also the victim of Trunchbull's bullying. Matilda's anger from the mistreatment she gets from her parents and Trunchbull makes her discover her powers of telekinesis and uses that to hatch a plan to revolt against Trunchbull and help Miss Honey be the rightful administrator of Trunchbull Hall. Matilda uses Trunchbull's past evils of being responsible for Miss Honey's parents' deaths against her, scaring her away and liberating Trunchbull Hall. At the end, Matilda's parents leave town, granting Matilda's wish to stay with Miss Honey as her new family.
And that is under a minute.
Wow.
Good.
Wow. And the adjectives. I love the adjectives. The villainous Trunchbull.
Today.
I'm just in a writing state of mind,
Yeah.
Well, okay. Let's
workshopping.
Okay, well then we have notes.
The workshop's over.
Molly.
The one thing I will say, I did not bring up Miss Perth, the librarian, and how Matilda likes to tell stories as a way to kind of like escape how her feeling, how to like express how angry and she feels. It almost feels like that was her way before the telekinesis happened. Like it was like her outlet.
Well, it's an outlet, but also we learn that that's part of her like powers because she tells this very vivid story about the acrobat and his wife. But then we realize as the movie goes on that it's actually the real life story of Miss Honey's parents. Yeah. So it's been transported into her brain. Yeah. So it's not just fantasy, as it turns out. It's part of something supernatural happening.
Molly, how do you feel about the phrase Matilda stands out as a girl with so much brains?
I liked it because I liked the part where the kid said that telekinesis is where you have so much brains it leaks out through your eyes. So
Leaks out through your eyes.
I felt that it was fitting for this
summary,
this childlike view that the movie frames things around. Yes.
RJ, Matilda the musical.
So nothing on Matilda the musical.
Okay.
This was my first time interacting with it. I think
I'd heard like a couple songs.
I think it was when I grew up on the Tonys.
I couldn't
tell
I was
you.
so many years ago
But
now.
I
I have no idea.
But I recognized when I grew up. I've heard the like da-na-na-na, like I've heard that just like in cultural osmosis. But I loved Matilda the movie.
The 1998
movie.
Or 1996, I'm sorry.
Obsessed with that movie. Ooh,
Do you know who directed that film?
Ang Lee.
Danny DeVito.
Oh,
Yes, he directed it. Yeah.
Wow.
Daniel DeVito.
And another thing I learned about that movie, because I didn't really include anything about the first film in it, because it's not touching this at all, really, is that Mara Wilson's mom died like 4 months before the movie came out. Mara Wilson plays Matilda in the film.
Yeah.
And so the movie's dedicated to her. And she had, I guess, had cancer, and they knew she was going downhill. So Danny DeVito screened it for her so she could see Mara and as Matilda before she passed away. It's very sweet, very sad.
Yeah. I was obsessed with that movie. I owned it on tape. I would watch it all the time. Every time it was on, like, if they showed it on like cable TV, I would watch it. I used to like stare at doorknobs and pretend like I could move it if I could just remember like all the times my parents yelled at me for, not mistreatment, but like, why haven't you done your homework or stuff like that? But yeah, I was obsessed with her and I wanted to be her. Yeah, I was obsessed with that movie.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Ladies and gentlemen,
Matilda. Molly, how about you?
I obviously share your love for the 90s version. This is actually the first movie that I watched for the podcast with Andrew. And when I told him we were watching Matilda, he was like, "Oh, with Danny DeVito?" And I said, "No, not that version." And then
but Emma Thompson.
Yes. Well, he asked me if there were any cast members of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia that were in this version because that is his favorite television show. I was like, "Was Emma Thompson ever on It's Always Sunny?"
They all work at the bar. I just found that out.
On It's Always Sunny?
The four characters.
Yes,
I just thought they were like regulars, like Cheers.
No, it's their bar.
I didn't know.
Bar. Yeah. Where was I going with this? Oh, I have seen 2 junior versions of this on stage. I've worked at 2 different theater camps that did versions of this.
Perfect.
But I've never seen, it's a very good show to do with kids. I've never seen a full length production of it, but I am obsessed with When I Grow Up. It makes me cry whenever I watch it. And a little bit naughty, or just Naughty, I think is what the song is called.
Naughty, yeah.
I would sometimes listen to Naughty when I was working on my dissertation and I needed a little like, you can do it, pick me up. I would listen to that song. Yeah. So I'm a light fan. I would like to see a full professional version of it.
Yeah, I would like to see it on stage for sure.
I would like to see it on stage with the caveat that it doesn't need to be 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
I do want to specify that. I am like RJ. I don't think I'd ever read Matilda, weirdly enough, because I read the synopsis on Wikipedia today and I was like, I don't remember some of this. So I think Matilda was one of the Roald Dahls that I didn't read, because I think I had like a collection, like a 4-book little set of Roald Dahls, and I think it was like BFG, Willy Wonka,
Elevator.
No, not Glass Elevator, because I ended up renting that at the library because I wanted to know what happened. No,
really?
James and the Giant Peach.
Oh, okay.
Maybe it was the Witches. Maybe it was the Witches. Those 4.
Yeah. Because Matilda's one of the more popular ones. It's surprising they didn't have it in there, but James and the Giant Peach and Willy Wonka I can see for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, they, I mean, we've already touched on some stuff about Roald Dahl when we did our Willy Wonka episode, so I'm not going to get too into Mr.
Problematic
Dahl.
Figure.
Problematic figure, but he is often regarded as one of the great children's authors of all time. So, there's a lot to contend with there. But yeah, I did not know any of the songs from this. I'd heard like people thought the movie was good when this came out. People had said glowing things about it. So I was excited to see it, and I think it was good. So, did that sound convincing?
Tepid response.
Bit tepid in the.
But before we get into it, let's talk about Matilda. So Matilda is published in 1988, 2 years before Roald Dahl dies. It is the story is pretty much the same as what we watched in this. Definitely, obviously, the 1996 version is pretty different. A, because it sets it in America, but B, there's some other changes as well. In the original idea for the book, Roald Dahl imagined that Matilda was like kind of a wicked girl, and she was like a brat. And a publisher named Roxburgh at his American publishing house apparently sent him a letter with notes that he ended up incorporating, which was to like make her like more innocent, and like maybe like she likes to read books or something like that. So some of that he ended up switching out, but he never gave credit to Roxburgh. His biographer later found these letters, and that's how they pieced together how he changed the story for Matilda. So that's interesting. But Matilda, in the book, she has a brother. His name is Michael. In the book, that was really only the big change.
Michael is also in the stage show.
Oh, is he in the stage show?
Movie.
Oh, okay. Because he's not in the 96 version, is he? Or does she have a brother?
The thing about the brother is that he's always watching television.
That's right. So okay, now that I say that,
minor. I see why they cut it in just for like a streamlining purpose, but he's there for he has some good jokes because he's just constantly glued to the TV. Yeah. Yeah,
that makes sense. Okay. There were a couple other things, but pretty much the show follows along the story, I would say, except for the story of the escapologist. That is pretty manufactured for the show. The musical. So Matilda, the musical, comes out in 2010.
Wow.
Yes. Music and lyrics are by Tim Minchin, who is a musician. I
would say musical comedian.
Yes, that is a good apt description. He also ends up later doing Groundhog Day, the musical. So he's now done two big musicals. It goes on to
musical, like one of those.
Yeah, it gets glowing reviews. The West End loves it. I think it's technically still playing in the West End. I don't think it's technically closed. I mean, it closed for COVID, but
sure,
that was like while it was on a hiatus. I think it's still playing. It had a really long Broadway run. It's been everywhere on earth. Like the list of productions across the globe is crazy. It's a perfect show for kids. It's, there's a lot to like about it. Makes sense. So at the Olivier's, I would say the BAFTAs. The Olivier's, it won Best New Musical, Best Actor in a Musical for Bertie Carvel, who played because Trunchbull in the show is played by a man in drag. Well, really a bloke in a dress, but that's the energy going on there. So Trunchbull won, and then Best Actress in a Musical, all the Matildas won. Obviously, it's a child's role, so there's multiple girls playing them. And then it won Best Director, Best Theater Choreographer, Best Set Design, Best Sound Design, and was nominated for Best Performance in a Supporting Role in a Musical, Best Lighting Design, and Best Costume Design. So she kind of cleaned up. Big show. Okay, so then Roald Dahl's Matilda the Musical, which is the official title of this film, comes out in 2022. It's directed by Matthew Warchus. He had directed the original production in the West End.
Okay.
So this is like what's her name who did
Across the Universe?
Yes, Julie Taylor. Well, no, because that wasn't a show. That wasn't a show
stage show, but she was a stage director.
Mamma Mia.
Wasn't Jamie also? It was the same team that did the movie and the musical.
I think that's right too. That's great. So it seems like British shows do that a lot. British theater directors are able to make the film adaptation. Screenplay is by Dennis Kelly. It's based on Roald Dahl's Matilda, the musical, and then also Matilda by Roald Dahl. It's produced by Tim Bevan, Eric Fellner, John Finn, Luke Kelly. It stars Alicia Weir as the titular Melinda Wormwood. You know Melinda. Lashana Lynch plays Miss Honey. You may know her if you're a fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe as Maria Rambeau. Stephen Graham plays Mr. Wormwood. Andrea Riseborough, who I know that name, but I do not know what I know her from.
I can tell
name.
you what you know her from. You know her from the Oscars controversy. She was the one that she was in like a little indie movie. And then there was this big push by fellow actors to get her an Oscar nomination.
That's her?
A few years ago. Yes. But then because of that push, there were no actresses of color, maybe one actress of color that got nominated for the role at all. And then a bunch of attention went to like how this campaign happened to put her up for an Oscar because it ended up making Woodfield less diverse. It was actresses that were nominated.
Leslie. It was
To Leslie was the film, yeah.
To Leslie was the film.
Wow,
yeah,
I remember that controversy. Wow. She plays Mrs. Wormwood. And then Emma Thompson plays Miss Trunchbull. So they went with a lady casting for the film.
But dragged up, I'll tell you. I mean, if you didn't know it was Emma Thompson, yeah.
That's drag.
It's definitely still a drag role, for sure.
Yeah. I mean, we all watch Nanny McPhee. We know she loves to put on a bit of a prosthetic. Call it a day.
You know?
Cinematography is by Tat Radcliffe. It is edited by Melanie Ann Oliver. The music is by Christopher Nightingale. Production companies are TriStar Pictures, Working Title Films, and the Roald Dahl Story Company. It's distributed by Sony Pictures Releasing International and Netflix internationally, which is where we watched it. It was released in the UK on November 25th, 2022, but in the United States on December 9th for a small limited run in America. Its running time is 118 minutes and the box office gross is 35.6, but we do not have a budget. So I don't know. I can't tell you. With these streaming ones, we don't know.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe it made money, maybe it didn't. They'll never tell us. Okay, so originally I always say his name wrong. Ralph Fiennes was supposed to be cast as Trunchbull. It was announced a year before, and then it ended up swapping to Emma Thompson. So I don't know what they never said, like why. They never said anything, but I'm curious. I'm sure it would have been great. He's great.
Yeah, I
obviously.
can see that for sure.
Another man down to do a bit of prosthesis.
Yes, famously.
Very famously. And then I have this photo. If you go into the document, Molly, there's a photo of Emma Thompson
on a swing
in
to Suns, or is that Towards End?
It's
Much Ado About Nothing.
Brannagh's.
I just said it. Much Ado About Nothing.
Oh, yes, okay, sorry. Thank you. Much Ado About Nothing.
Never listen to women.
There's a part in the movie when Trunchbull is on a swing in a white dress, and it's directly referencing Emma's performance in Much Ado.
Gotcha.
I really like that Much Ado. I've not seen the.
Yeah.
Wasn't there a Joss Whedon one? Like the black and white.
Yes, the black and white one that they shot over like 4 days or whatever.
That was like when we took Joss Whedon the most seriously, and then
right after
that, we were like, oh, canceled.
Yeah.
Not a ton of background fun information on this film. It seems like they just, it took some time to get the rights, and then they got it together and they made the film.
It's on Netflix.
Now it's on Netflix.
Yeah.
The biggest controversy, the biggest thing that was like, it was supposed to be released in theaters, and then Sony was like, the pandemic's happening, Netflix, you can have it. So
gotcha. Sure.
Cool. The week this comes out, I have UK box office. So this will be a nice change of pace. Okay. So, the week this comes out, Matilda's number 1, but I will tell you everything that's 10 to 2. So 10 is Banshees of Inisherin. This is so recent. It's so weird to think about. Yeah. 9 is Lyle Crocodile, a movie musical that we may do one day on this pod. 8 is a movie called Living.
Girl, I'll live.
7 is Black Adam, which was the
Shazam follow-up.
Okay.
It's DC.
DC.
Okay.
6 is Bones and All. 5 is The Menu.
That was Ralph Fiennes.
Oh.
That is Ralph Fiennes, yes.
That's why I couldn't do Trunchbull. It would have been a conflicting media junket.
Yeah.
I don't know.
They wouldn't have known.
He would have had 2 movies where he was watching people eat food in front of him at the same time.
And really, it's the same audience too for those 2 movies. That would be confusing. Yeah.
You would be so confused. Yeah. 4 is a really uplifting film called She Said. 3 that I saw in theaters. That's the Harvey Weinstein film.
Yeah.
3 is Strange World, which is the Disney animated film. I think it's Pixar actually. It's the one where he's like gay or something. I don't know. 2 is Black Panther. 2 is Black Panther Wakanda Forever, and
Angela
1 is Matilda the
Bassett's.
musical.
Yes, Angela Bassett's Black Panther Wakanda Forever.
Yes.
Okay.
I read this thing that like Angela Bassett, who was nominated for an Oscar for that film,
she made $350,000.
And Robert Downey Jr. just signed on for like $4 million or something.
No, $95 million
to play Dr. Doom.
To play Dr.
And so
Doom.
everyone is like, why the fuck are we paying this much money? Oof.
That's all.
That's all.
Wow.
Well, let's talk about the film.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to come in hot and I'm going to say I feel very lukewarm on this musical.
Oh,
I think a lot of the technical aspects really warmed this movie for me, but I feel like every song I was like either a hit or it was a full miss for me. Mm-hmm. So it kept like every other song was the opposite. So I kept being like ping ponged by this film in a way that was slightly frustrating, but I think it's a good time. I'm sure kids would love. I'd love to watch a kid watch this movie because I think they'd have a good time watching it. I wish
my nephews watch it. They would like it. Yeah.
I hated the CGI slop at the end. I got really annoyed about that. But like the chains, that sequence just felt there's no weight to it. It really bothered me. But
yeah, all of a sudden it was like, oh, we're doing like.
I think I'm not sure of this because like I said, I've never seen a full stage show, but the junior version that I saw, which was pretty complete, but just kind of truncated. Yeah. It did the chalkboard thing. And then that was what sent Trunchbull away.
Her away.
Yeah.
I felt
that's what happens in the book. It's just the chalk.
Yeah. So I felt like, so again, maybe I'm wrong because maybe like obviously when you're doing a junior version, you're not going to put as much technical effects in there, but like it felt like it was like it built to that. And then she just like knocked over the chalkboard. She's like, it won't be that easy. And it was like, I felt like they were setting up for like the movie needs more stuff that happens. More,
yeah. We've CGI'd so much already. Let's make it a really big and scary thing.
Yeah.
Which I will say, I actually didn't think this movie had a lot of CGI really until the end. Like there were definitely additional, like there was definitely background elements that they were like CGIing the sky in and stuff. Like there was some of that like atmospheric CGI. But if this movie feels very tactical for a lot of it.
Yeah, I think like, that a lot of the CGI was
tactile.
A lot of the CGI, like the full CGI, were all like imaginative because they were like either her stories or like her imagination.
Yeah, that's true.
Flashbacks.
Yeah. I feel a little bit opposite of you, Adam, in that I really like the stage show. Mm-hmm. And I did feel like some of the CGI kind of ruined it for me. Mm-hmm. Specifically in my favorite songs, and I think maybe it was because you're like more precious about things you really like. Yeah. But like Naughty, it like was really fun until she's like on the roof and then she's doing a handstand, and I was like, what? Like what? Yeah. This doesn't. It's a thing of you're like, this doesn't need this like cute little ornamentation. Like it's good. Yes. It's just good. Just don't feel like you need to like entertain me so hard. And then the place where I really like genuinely got upset was in When I Grow Up. So I think the thing you have to understand about the stage show is because the big problem of having a show that's children is that child actors can only do so much talent wise, right? Like there are some children who are preternaturally good at performing and, they're great, but like they're still good for children. They are not fully trained.
You're grading on a curve.
Yes. So the way that they do that in the stage show is that Matilda is a child and there are child actors that play the other like kindergartners, but then there are adults who play the like older kids in the school. And so like the song where they get introduced to the school is like done by the adults trying to scare them as older kids, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And so When I Grow Up has the kids and adult, like the kids are singing and then the adults come in and then they kind of do this like choreography where they swing and they kind of go back and forth. And so this device that you're thinking of as just, it's a necessity for the talent level to be there, for there to be adults in these school uniforms, transforms in the song into like a metaphorical thing of you're seeing the adults singing about like one day when I'm older, I'll be strong enough to carry these loads. We're like, you're crying as an adult because you understand that the real meaning is like, as an adult, you still don't feel like you're fully grown up yet. You aren't you still are afraid of things. It can be hard to carry your loads. Like you never really get to that place, but like you have to try to be strong for the kids so that they can feel safe. Right. Mm-hmm. And so to me, it is such a song that's like powerful because it's quiet. And so when transformed, it started and I started to get emotional as the kids were like, they were like coming home from school with their parents and it was so cute. And then it was like, now they're like in their little fantasies of how cool it'll be to be superstars when they're grown up. And I was like, this is not what this song is about at all.
The tears got absorbed back into
right back into my eyes. So look, maybe it's one of those songs that like I get so emotional for that I wouldn't ever, like I wouldn't be happy with any adaptation of it. Mm-hmm. But I felt like that was the one place where I was like, no, you actually ruined this with movie magic. I'm really upset that you did it this way.
I was trying to decide if I liked the seeing their parents and then into the fantasy. Cause I was like, I guess that's kind of cool. Cause it's like linking some of the things that they were bringing up, just like their personalities. But then, it ended up just being, I wish it was more like, because it was directly after like one of the first Trunchbull scenes where it's like she's really down, putting them down as like, you're nothing, you're pathetic, you're kids or whatever. That I wish it was like how you described it, like them swinging. Like I wish it was more directly like linked or connected. Yeah. Because I was like, I don't know if I like seeing their parents because they're like purposely not showing their faces, but you know that those are their parents.
Can I ask a question? Yeah. So in Matilda the book, she's 5 years old. Did it feel like
they're kindergartners?
Yes. She was 5. No, she's not 5.
No, the girl who plays her is 12. Yeah. Did it feel like they were too? I understand that also Mara Wilson in the 1996 version is not 5, but she's not a tween either.
Yeah.
I want to say she's like 7. Like she still feels like she's like in like
here
first, second grade.
Yeah, like 12, maybe 13.
There's something about I really don't like saying this. I did not love this performance of the girl who plays Matilda.
Yeah.
And I can't really figure out why, because she kind of does everything that she's supposed to. Like there's not really like anything bad about the performance, but so I'm wondering if it's just like because she felt older. Like there's something about if Matilda being so young makes it feel like part of the hugeness of the like villainy and the hugeness of the school and the hugeness of the magic is like you're so young that everything feels big because it's your first time experiencing anything. Yeah. Like you'll create villains in your mind of like people you know simply because they told you couldn't have dessert that day. Like it's like that's how young you are. But like because she was like just old enough that I was like, I'm not saying that I didn't understand the movie or anything, but it was more just like because it's so. We were in a real world, we were in a real place, we were in a real school, and it was so larger than life that I was like, I was almost like because she was old enough that I was like, should I be worried? I guess it's
like this is obviously just child abuse if this is literally what's happening in this
but
school.
Something about if it's kids, then you're like this. I don't know. I mean, like yes, she like swings the girl in the pigtails. It's a very famous scene in every version of Matilda. Yeah. Like it's huge. It's great, but. Something about if she was younger, then you could chalk it up to if your kid came home and said like, our headmistress sung a girl by her pigtails and like threw her into the yard next door and they were 5 years old, you'd be like, sure, absolutely. Whereas like if a 12-year-old came home and said that,
parents now would be writing you an email saying, my child told me this happened and that is verbatim the truth and I need you to explain this, what happened. Right. I wasn't thinking about it at the time, but I do feel like you're right. I think that you in the book and in not original movie, the 90s movie.
The 90s.
Yeah.
You understand that it is a childlike interpretation of what's happening. Now, that doesn't mean that Trunchbull is a good teacher, actually, and Matilda's just fully misunderstanding. Right. But it is that, like, the extremity of what's happening is part of, like, a child fantasy version of what's going on.
Which I think is like one of the Dahl qualities that makes his book so interesting to read is you really do get transported back to being like 6 years old and being like everything being so massive.
Yeah.
So it's like, I mean, it's like, it's part of his strong suit of his writing for sure.
Yeah. I do think, so maybe I should say it could have been more CGI. Like it's I'm giving like conflicting pieces of feedback
could
of like
could
too much
could
CGI,
more CGI
but
help?
also like I need this to be more fantasy, which I get is like a little conflicting.
Well, it's weird because
there is a lot of fantasy.
there's a lot of fantasy, but there's no CGI. I mean, like, I hate to be the person that's going to do this conversation because it's so tired, but like, there's no CGI in the 1996 version.
Yeah.
Right.
But I understand that I watched it as a child. I have not seen it as an adult. So I'm sure I'm going to have nostalgic lens of this film anyway.
Right.
But like, CGI isn't always the answer. Like, I do wish in this movie there were more practical effects. Like the scene of Matilda like doing all the magic, like all the telekinesis by herself in her house and having fun. Like, it's not in the book. It's a complete departure from the book. Blah 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 blah. I understand, but like that's like the fun thing that if you had that power, you'd want to do as a kid.
Yeah.
And I kept like waiting for the moment where like this Matilda had fun. And I just feel like she kept being
dour.
like,
Yeah.
I'm a champion for the rights of the working children. And I was like,
and
that's great. And that's great.
Yes.
That's great.
It's a little serious.
Yes.
It is a little, the whole musical is a little bit serious. I will definitely give you that. I will say with the performance of this child, this girl does like a little bit like a kid that I work with who is like very smart and gets herself into trouble. So it was like screwing me up a little bit. But I think you're right. I mean, like I said, I love the song Naughty. It makes me get all verklempt and I like listening to it when I need a little motivation. But like they might have leaned in the writing a little bit too much into the like she is so... It gets very like political and she is so like nothing she does is ever actually wrong. Like I feel like Matilda could like actually mess up too. It's only she is only the oppressed and Trunchbull is only the oppressor. And like again, like I'm not asking for Trunchbull to be like a complex
sympathetic or something.
Multi-dimensional character. Like let her be the villain, absolutely. But like I feel like a more interesting tack would be also like Matilda is mostly in the right, but maybe there's one time where she takes it a little too far and she has to learn to rein in her power. Like, or just make the stakes a little bit smaller. I also don't know with the CGI if it's, I know when I watched the, again, junior version, so I might have been missing some stuff, but like, I was surprised how long it took to get to the telekinesis in the show. And I think actually it does take a long time in the 90s movie too. It's just the thing of when you're a kid, you just remember the big set piece at the end.
The set pieces, you know, like I think all of Air Bud is about like a dog playing basketball, but actually he like doesn't do that until the last 3 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know if they also felt like they needed to do more CGI because they were like, people are coming into this expecting it to be all magic and they're going to be disappointed if it literally takes, you know, an hour and 45 minutes before there's any magic in it. Yeah. But I think, Adam, I like your idea a lot of like, it could be magic, but like magic we know isn't literal magic, and then make the telekinesis really big. So we're like, oh my gosh, now the metaphorical magic is bleeding into the real world. I think that's really the direction you want to take it.
Like I love the she solves the math equation on the chalkboard. I love that. It's like it's so easy to do. There's literally no magic. I just love the things that are like, she's so smart. Let's explain how smart she is. Her being like, these are all the books I read is less interesting to me. Her being a person who can tell a story is really not interesting to me. The movie, and I think I have no doubt that this works so well on stage because stage is more inherently a storytelling medium than a film where you can't have her just say it, so you're gonna like end up showing it. But like what you can dream up from Matilda telling the story is better than what you're going to show me verbatim of the story. Like, and I understand that it has to, that you have to tie it back into Miss Honey and Trunchbull and everything, and you have to like learn it, but I don't, it like slows this movie. You could cut that whole thing and you would cut 30 minutes off this film.
In the junior versions that I watched, it was excruciating because like they don't have the budget to like, because junior shows don't have the budget to like actually put trapeze on stage or anything, right? So like so
it's just a little kid
acrobat is mostly just like doing, you know, ballet positions with their arms or whatever. And anything that's like one character having to tell another character, like, that's so interesting, the thing you're telling me, when it's like not that compelling to watch, is like it brings it down a lot.
Yeah.
And I feel like the benefit the movie has, again, is like they have the budget to, like, she's doing this trick with the dynamite in her hair and whatever, and like we get to see all of those things. What I would have done, if you want to keep that whole plot line, is just have Matilda tell it through voiceover. So like it's just, we're like just in her mind, and we don't have to see. I feel like what slowed it down was the watching her tell the librarian. Now I love the librarian. I'm gonna forget her name. The woman who plays her is a stand-up comedian.
Yes.
Let me look it up.
Her last name is, she goes by V because she has a very long last name.
Sindhu V.
Yes.
She is hilarious. I've seen a lot of like her clips on YouTube and stuff like that. So like I did love her being in the movie, but every time that she's like, oh, Matilda, you're just so good at telling the story, I'm like, she's fine at telling the story, but like it's not.
I've seen better storytelling.
You know, So I think it would be fun to keep the plot, but just have Matilda telling us over voiceover, or something that was like, we don't need the plot of her being good at telling stories.
It's a little bit the thing of, you watch a movie and it's in the movie there's a band and it's supposed to be like, this is the greatest band of all time, but you never hear them play a song, because then you can just be like, I believe they're the greatest band of all time. The minute you're like, you're the greatest storyteller I've ever heard, but I'm listening to it as an audience member being like, I don't know if I really agree with that assessment. But like, that's why the math equation works. Cause like, I don't know anything, like you solve it. I fully believe you're a genius.
Yeah. I don't know. That looks impressive. I'll just believe that it's impressive.
Exactly.
And I think it's also nice that Matilda is a very internal character. I think is one of the things that in like the book, I read the book, but a long time ago, but like, I feel like let her magic. I think probably part of what is compelling to a lot of people about the story is, if you were a shy kid, you relate a lot to Matilda. And so letting her tell the story in her head, letting her be this smart, but it comes out in these little moments, would both help with this is all a fantasy of how she sees things in her little brain, and also would take a little more pressure off of the actress too, and would let the movie do more of that heavy lifting for her, instead of, I feel like there's a lot you're asking out of your young performer in this, where she has to like be not just smart, but also like compelling and, you know, capable of like inspiring this whole revolution with the kids and like, There's one more critique that the more I've thought about this movie since we watched it last night, that I'm going to say, and that's, for a movie, a story really that espouses the ideal of like kind of like the messiness of children. This is a very polished film. Like it's like a little almost too clean to me, where like there's nothing out of place. And I do like that kind of like aesthetic. It kind of reminds me of like, it has a little bit of like that Edward Scissorhands kind of like tract house energy of like the suburbs are all the same. So I understand that.
There's like a little Tim Burton-y of it too.
There's a little Tim Burton for sure. We're living in that energy for sure. But I think like, I just wish I felt like there was like a little bit more teeth, I think, to the movie or something. Just like, I think that like gritty, not necessarily gritty, but like, I was never, it's so weird because now I feel like I'm saying the opposite of what I was saying earlier, but like, I felt like I was never worried because it was like, I don't want to worry about them, but I want a little bit of like roughness to some extent, or just like a little messiness. Like I want
messy, unpolished. Yeah.
Even though I know they like go through the mud and they do the whole thing and blah, 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 but it's not even like a literal cleanness. It's more just like the film style itself is so like presented perfectly. Like every shot is composed kind of immaculately that I wish it had been like a little bit more.
I wonder, Netflix didn't make it, right? They just distributed it. There were moments that it felt like I was watching like a jingle jangle, like it's like, not that it's overproduced or like overdrawn, but it feels like I'm looking at like a model, like world. You know what I mean? Like almost like a dollhouse almost.
There's something about those very iconic Roald Dahl illustrations too that are like sketch based.
The hair
is always like crazy.
Yeah.
There's something like about that like I don't think I in all of the movies that we've seen that are like based on a Roald Dahl property, I think only maybe the original Witches from the 90s, like that might be the one that's closest to kind of getting that a little bit like a child made this energy. Just like what
this is where and there's like a darkness to his work too that I think people usually don't embrace in film versions.
Yeah. Because they don't, I mean, I think that's what they think is going to turn families off. But like, I mean, I don't know. It's.
There is a really brilliant essay by Finnegan Kirkmeyer called The Taboo of Sadness that's about how theater for young audiences, the only thing, the ultimate thing that you can't do is have real sadness in your story, that there's like a real fear of portraying things on stage. And I don't recall if this is something it's really beautifully written, and now I can't remember if this is something he says explicitly or if it's something I just took away from it. I think that there's a lot of power in knowing that you're going to watch it with your kid. Yeah. So there's stuff that people will put in children's books because you're not going to be literally sitting next to them while they consume it. But if you have to sit next to them in a theater and see them going through real emotions, that scares parents. And I don't think that this film, and I think the stage show also is not really like, it's not really going to like real darkness and sadness.
I even wonder though, there's that conversation that I think like millennials, Gen Xers, I'm sure now Zoomers have started to have too, where it's like, I remember watching this thing from my childhood and it like quote unquote traumatized me. But like all you're referring to is something spooky from a kid's movie that is pointedly supposed to make you feel spooky. It's more just like it's a new emotion that you're having as a child, so it's going to imprint in a specific way for your brain. But like everyone talks about how like, well, I guess not everybody, because I'm sure people don't watch anymore, but like when people used to watch Bambi as a kid and then being like Bambi's like a horrifying movie. But that's like kind of the beauty of Bambi, is that it feels comfortable enough to let kids have that experience, but like the movie doesn't end with her dying. It's about him. Like, it starts with it. It's like the first third of the film, and then the rest is like how he goes past that and like grows up. Yeah, that's all.
I mean, I don't know. Are people taking that really literally, or do we just? I think there's always been a desire to sanitize things for children, and some of that is appropriate, right? I don't think like from birth you should be confronted with the worst of the world, but like, I do think that we tend to default towards overprotectiveness, and something that I have always said about kids theater is like, now, and let me say, this is not kids theater. It's a family friendly musical. I wouldn't put this in the category of TYA necessarily, where like the children are the primary audience. But you, especially in the US, you are often at the, you're held hostage by the most conservative parent there. Especially when it comes to like, what can you put on in a school? The person who has the most protectionist mindset is the one who will complain the loudest about whatever's on stage. Again, I don't want to like heap too much of this onto the stage show. I think that I really like it. I really like Tim Minchin. I like his other stuff outside of musical theater. I like a like witty, word heavy, lyric type of show. I like Sondheim. I like Lin-Manuel Miranda. Like that's my kind of jam personally. But I wonder how much even there might have been some grit and darkness in the stage show that even got further sort of
cleaned up
for the movie.
RJ, thoughts on Tim Minchin?
I mean, I also am a fan of like wordy. It got a little too wordy for me sometimes, but I think it was a combination of like, I'm looking it was not meeting. Like the words just kind of felt like they were just saying what was happening already that I was seeing visually. Mm-hmm. So maybe that's more like the directing of like, it's not showing me something that complements the words that I'm hearing. Sometimes it felt like I was watching like just visual, literal translations.
I mean, I agree to some extent. I think there's a lot of it because I think he does a good job of writing lyrics as children would say things.
Yes, like kids learning all these words, so they're like just saying them to like express how they feel.
Yeah, so I think he's very good at that. Like it feels like children in that way, but like the wordiness of Sondheim that I like is like the wordplay that only adults would ever be able to come up with in that regard. So I think sometimes I was like, well, it's a little, I mean, fun,
Thriller
but it's
in Manila,
a little pedestrian. Thriller in Manila with a queen named Camilla.
RJ, can you give an example of a musical number that you felt like was just like showing you what you already knew?
Let me look at this list.
Yeah.
It's up. It's right there.
I mean, I wasn't a big fan of the Trunchbull songs, but I also didn't know obviously, like, how do you make a villain song? Where it's like the goal of the song is to show like how scary they are, right?
Yeah.
But I like The Smell of Rebellion was the one where I was like, I'm seeing these kids rock through the mud, and like she just keeps going on that like I'm gonna squash the rebellion off of their bodies. That I'm like, yeah, I got it. Yeah. There
was a little too much information from Trunchbull about like I was like, I think we get your worldview. It's been articulated many times, but it's pretty simple.
Yes. It's very clear.
It's called Crunch'em. Like we got it from the moment we walked in. Thank you so much.
The small details that I really liked, that kids are maggots as their school motto, but in Latin. I thought that was funny. I was that like, was funny.
Yeah, that's good.
Clever.
Yeah.
The songs that I did like though, I really liked. School Song, Miss Honey's song.
Oh, we're gonna have a full conversation about Miss Honey. Miss Honey gets her own.
I mean, Miss Honey could be one of truly the best like literary characters. I mean, just
all her iterations. I do want to say, look,
she's a real Samwise.
I think the performance was great, but again, maybe with the misremembering something from your childhood. Mm-hmm. But the cottage,
I know
her cottage is so iconic, and this one just did not quite hit in the same way.
The cottage in that 90s movie was like, that's how I would love to live in that cottage.
And we all wanted to live in that cottage. We all, it didn't matter. You could have had the best parents in the world. You still want a Miss Honey to adopt you and let you live in that cottage.
But I feel like as a kid, I didn't realize that she was broke. And I think like in this one, it's kind
clear
of very
they really do. Yeah. We don't get that much backstory, I feel like, in the 90s version.
No.
We don't get the whole thing with her parents. Like, Trunchbull might still be her aunt,
is
right?
Her aunt. Yeah, you learn that right at the end. Yeah. Like right before the end. She tells Matilda that.
I don't know. I feel like it's like we didn't really need more information about Miss Honey. Like, she's the perfect kindergarten teacher. That's all you need to know about her, really.
She's like the ideal teacher. Like, she's the people who should be teaching.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I do... Okay, we have talked about 67 songs and played none of them.
Fix it in post.
Let's do, only because RJ just brought it up, we'll do School Song, which is a song that, as someone who had never seen the show, I was pleasantly surprised. This is where like the smartness of the lyrics absolutely was so fun.
Yes, the alphabet specifically, but we were like, okay, I gotta want to see this play out because this is really smart.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to start learning.
Oh, you'll start learning, all right.
Great, I already know the alphabet.
You don't know the alphabet until we learn the alphabet.
So you think you're able to survive this mess by being a prince or a princess? You will soon see there's no escaping tragedy. And even if you put in heaps of effort, you'll just waste the energy. 'Cause your life as you know it is ancient history. I have suffered in this jail. I've been trapped inside this cage for ages.
I gotta shout out them using asked with the British
Asked.
accent for R.
Yeah.
Asked. That song is so fun. I was like, because I gotta be honest, Miracle. I was like, sure, it's an opener. We're doing a Busby Berkeley moment.
I think Miracle's really cute. I think it sets a really fun tone for the musical. I think that
Very colorful.
it's a show about how children are viewed by adults, and I think starting with this like satirical song about how parents think they're a little too cute, but then we go to the school where like, okay, but we don't mean that like they need to be crushed in their spirit or whatever. Like, I think it's a really it's not an amusing song. I wouldn't like listen to it on a playlist of musical theater, bangers, but like, I think it's a perfect opener for a musical. Yeah.
And then Naughty, I did not have the same enjoyment of Naughty that you did. Molly, unfortunately. So then we got to School Song. I was like, oh, all right. Like, I'm okay, here we go. The problem is like, she reprises Naughty like 3 times in the first like 45 minutes of this movie. And I was like, sweetheart, you have not earned this, honey. I gotta be real with you. Miss Honey.
She earned it for me.
Just because you find that life's not fair, it doesn't mean that you just have to grin and bear it. If you always take it on the chin and wear it, nothing will change. Even if you're little, you can do a lot. You mustn't let a little thing like little stop you. If you sit around and let them get on top you, might as well be saying you think that it's okay, and that's not right. And if it's not right, you have to put it right.
Let's talk about Miss Honey.
Miss Honey. Miss Honey. Miss Honey. Honey, honey, honey.
I think Miss Honey is a hard character to pull off because she is, and maybe this is why Matilda has to be a little bit more extroverted, because Honey is also so pulled into herself that if Matilda was also very in her head, that would be a lot of introverted characters for a musical. She's so gentle.
Yes.
And then you have to like singing in a compelling way while also being gentle is very hard.
Yes.
And in all the stage shows I've watched, I've assumed that Honey was kind of boring because it was a child playing her.
Oh, right. Because you're watching the junior version.
It's the junior version. They're all children. I thought Sean Lynch obviously was a lot better than any of the children that I'd watched, and is obviously high praise. I mean, obviously has actual vocal talent behind it.
Yeah,
I felt like the
wonderful
songs,
vocals. I was very shocked.
Yes, I felt like the songs were holding her back from being able to actually harness that in some ways.
Did you feel like the songs were too, like, it showed off too much that it, like, does what am I saying? Were they too ballady? Were they too like, okay.
Too ballady and asking her to like sing in a quiet voice, I feel like a lot of the time.
Yeah, because like it should be like the singing is an escape, right, for a character to like that, like if the ballad was
the
more
daughter
just,
of the escapologist,
it all comes back like escapologist. I didn't know what to expect, what her song was going to be. I was like, is it going to be like
it went
a torch?
so long that I didn't know if she was going to get a song.
Me too. I was like, are they not going to have her sing? I thought, because I was like, is it going to be very torch songy where it's like, someday I'll be able to sing. But then it's like, but we already get those songs from Matilda, because Matilda's the main character of like, I'm going to like rise above or whatever. So I really wasn't expecting. She's kind of more of the ingenue role, really. Like she's just trying to, she's like the circumstances just like are against her. And she just needs to like, and she falls in love.
She falls in love with a child.
I mean, I did like her performance, but I see where you're coming at with the songs. But I also, by the time that it got to the second half of the movie and she started singing, I was like, okay.
Look, she has the right vibes to be Miss Honey. I do think. Totally. I think that she seems like a nurturing, caring figure.
you gotta have big eyes to play Miss Honey. I mean, I think that's gotta be in the cast.
Yeah, you gotta look like an ingenue.
But I think that the musical struggles with how to bring Miss Honey into a musical realm. And maybe she should have been a non-singing role. Although I love her being on When I Grow Up. I think that again, like I said, like I think that song on stage tells a whole story about being an adult that's not really ready to be a grown-up. And then you see how it's leading into Miss Honey is the top of that. Yeah.
Well, I think that could be interesting. Like if all the kids sound like these amazing Broadway singers and Miss Honey sounds like a child, unaware
or
of her
just
voice,
like,
you know,
like a classic kind of 70s musical performer where it's not like you just are an actress who happens to sing, but like you aren't a singer per se.
I feel like you guys should pull up, I think it was the Tonys, or it was like the Tonys, or what's the British version of the Tonys?
The Oliviers.
The Oliviers.
Matilda, When I Grow Up.
Oh, When I Grow Up.
When I grow up, I will be brave enough to fight the creatures that you have to fight beneath the bed each night to be a grown-up. When I grow up, I will be smart enough to answer all the questions that you need to know the answers to before you're grown up. And when I grow up, I will have treats every day, and I'll play with insects, bubblers, and monsters, think of fun.
Okay, so I think that what I think the song tells us is like, obviously you're not gonna have a child who comes in with like a crazy vocal performance in comparison to a grown adult, but like Honey does still, even though you can tell she's a trained singer, it's a very quiet, meek vocal performance. And we're learning that, and we see Honey's path is I have to learn how to be a grown up, and Matilda's path is like, I've got this gumption within me, I've got this setting things right thing, and like I'm gonna go out there and be the big brave hero, and Honey has the more gentle story, right? And so I think that that's great to have that dramatic choice of like Honey has this kind of childlike voice, but then you can't give her her own whole song because that we've already been subjected to a lot of child singing, and they're great for being children, but like we're hungry for a grown-up vocal performance.
Yes, that is true. There's a lot of children in this.
I feel that the music doesn't let, no matter how good of a performer Miss Honey is, she can't really get out there with the voice. And so, I think that is, while I love the cleverness of the songs, I wish that they had somehow found a dramatically resonant way for there to be like a full 11 o'clock number by an adult that's in here shaking it up sonically a little bit for us.
Well, like it could have been cool, like that moment where she's like, she takes her keys and it's like, I own this school now. Like, even if it's just a little tag, like a little 2.5-minute tag, a reprise of When I Grow Up, but like her belting it. When I grow up, belting it to Trunchbull. Full Nicole Scherzinger as Miss Honey on the West End. Fully,
it's an I'm telling you,
absolutely
rendition of When I Grow Up.
Could be something.
So I'm going to read this comment. Okay. So many of these songs are so good, but are made better when you watch them in the context of the story, which is a rare feat for a musical.
What?
Mama, that is a musical.
What are you talking about? What do you mean rare feet?
Mama, have you seen a musical?
The problem is that it sounds bad outside of the context of the musical. That's usually the issue.
Somebody is has taken issue with the integrated musical.
92 people liked that comment, by the way.
On these walls I hang wonderful pictures. Through this window I can watch the seasons change. By this lamp I can read, and I am set free. And when it's cold outside, I feel no fear. Even in the winter storms, I am warmed by a small but stubborn fire. And there is nowhere I would rather be. It isn't much, but it is enough for me.
I think this is a great performance, genuinely, by Lashana Lynch. I was not anticipating. First of all, I didn't even know she was in it. So when she showed up on screen, I was like, oh, I was like pleasantly surprised.
I only know her as Monica Rambeau. So.
And also, she had just come off of that 007 movie where she was like going to be the next 007.
That's right.
So No Time to Die? Is that what it is?
I think I saw the one that she was in, but I don't remember what it was called.
It's one of those.
I'm not a big Bond head. Whatever you call
girl.
I'm not a bonded babe. But yeah, I think she's like really good in this movie. I mean, it's such like if you can nail that, just like she's so, it's not just sweet. Like it's a little sweet and scared. And I think that's like, it's kind of like perfectly done in this movie. And anytime she like hugs or like when Matilda hugs her for the first time and they kind of like connect, it just as a kid also, sorry. Okay. I'll do it. As a queer kid.
Okay. English teachers were our salvation.
There were those teachers who it did feel like they saw us for us and not like just as another kid.
Yeah.
And so it like always flashes. Honey, like either performance, it's so evocative.
And look, I think it works a lot in the final number, the holding my hand number.
Oh, totally.
I think the vocals and the music and all of that. Because it ultimately is, I know I like made a joke about it before, but like it is kind of a love story between Honey and Matilda in the sense of like finding parent-child love together, right? And them being, it still feels like she's gonna be the grown-up. It's not like a parentification thing, but that like Honey needed Matilda's rebelliousness and Matilda needed Honey's nurturing and love and someone she could rely on in that way. And so that they're like a perfect match for that reason. And I think it all clicks very well in that final number.
Yeah, totally. I agree. I do also like the kind of going back in the Matilda telling Honey's story. Like she thought she was just imagining a story, but it was actually like telling her truth. I liked that whenever they would go back to the flashbacks of the story, that like when Matilda was telling it first, she was the kid, she was the little girl. And then when she makes the connection that it's Honey's story, like it's a young Miss Honey.
Yeah, I liked that a lot too.
I really like that a lot.
Now, we would be fools if we were to not talk about this Emma Thompson performance. If we were to go this entire conversation and not mention this.
Is she not a dame? That's crazy.
No, she's not a dame.
What? Do you think she asked not to become one? I feel like that's the only explanation.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Because I know some people have feelings about the like political meaning of being like Order of the British Empire and stuff. So
that's true. She would technically be like a knight of like the culture, basically.
Yeah. DBE. It's DBE. Knight Commander or Dame Commander of the Most Excellent Order of the British Empire. Yeah, she's definitely in. She's in the OBE. Yes.
Oh, okay.
I would think it would be Dame Emma, right? Dame Commander of the Most Excellent Order. I mean, look, British titles are insane. I'm sorry. We broke off from your country because we couldn't handle all of this.
Couldn't do it.
But I would think she's a dame.
She's a dame. She's my dame, baby. Hey, there's nothing like a dame.
Nothing in the world.
Okay.
Emma.
This performance is so insane.
Yeah.
In like the best way.
I know.
The woman will, for a person who is not normally, I think people think of as like character actress first. Like generally, I don't think she's one of the people that people think of when they think of that.
I would say comedic, but not character.
Yes.
Yeah.
But she has these crazy character performances from time to time. And this is this is bizarro world energy. But it's so, I mean, probably his greatest villain, Dahl's greatest villain is Trunchbull. Like she's so...
I don't know. The witches are pretty good, but witches do be witchy.
The witches is good, but the witches is
like scary. It's like
it's a group that's scary. Yes. Best individual villain. We can give her a more specific category.
At the Showgays.
The Showgays, best individual villain.
Best
performance by a villain hyphen individual. So yeah, I think she's really insane, and I applaud her work. Apparently, I read that she wouldn't stop hugging the kids between
I'm sure
between takes, and the director had to be like, "You have to stop hugging children because they are supposed to be scared
because they won't look terrified when you're acting."
Yeah,
that's funny.
And she is. I feel like I remember when this was starting to come out, there was a little bit of a rumbling in conversation about like, are we putting her in a fat suit? Like, To me, and maybe this is just me being naive, this didn't read fat suit. It just read
read proportionized. It read drag.
Huge. Just like gargantuan woman.
Because she was also like wearing like risers to be taller. Like it's just like the whole body was made larger. It didn't feel. However, if we were going to talk about fat suits, are you
talking about Bruce? Okay. What did you think of Bruce?
Everybody's talking about Bruce.
Everybody's talking about Bruce.
Okay, look. Okay, I'm gonna have maybe multiple controversial takes here. So, firstly, I am like a straight size person, I think is how you would phrase it. Like I can buy clothes in a regular clothing store, but I'm also not like a small person. So I don't know what I'm allowed to like say or not say in the like fat politics area of it. I don't personally find it offensive if we put people in fat suits. I think it's fine. I think like there's ways to do it that are problematic, but like I don't know if we need to just say like there's never a place for them. However, the kid who plays Bruce, I believe just has padding in his sweater vest. And I did look up pictures of the kid to confirm like seeing him out and about, you know, in like interviews and stuff that he seems like that's what they did. And I'm hesitant to comment at all on like the body of a child. Obviously I don't want to give this young performer any sort of complex about any of this.
That being said,
it's not if this child somehow listens to this, like I'm not commenting on his actual body in any way.
Yeah.
I didn't really notice or care until the finale number where he is dancing
because it's like bouncing
and you're like oh that's bizarre. No, it wasn't him it was that he was doing up and down motions and his stomach was not moving because it was just a pillow. And like maybe you could argue again in the like it's a childhood fantasy, but we needed to make it like messier and more fantasy like earlier then if we want it to be like, oh, Bruce has a pillow up his stomach the way that like all children have played with a pillow in their stomach pretending to be a pregnant person or a fat person or whatever, right? But like it looked so weird when he was dancing and it was so clear that like the clothing did not correspond with an actual body just in the midsection.
I didn't notice that in the dancing. I thought it was funny that he was just padded, but like his head is like tiny.
Yeah,
but it's not. But it's not. If you haven't seen the movie, for those listening,
it really looks like he put a pillow.
It just looks like he's wearing like 4 sweaters. Like it doesn't. Look, it is not conveying fat boy.
No,
it is conveying like. He's wearing a lot of layers today.
Here's the thing. I'm not even sure what exactly he looked like because when we were watching it, Andrew said, oh, does he look like that because he ate the cake? Like he thought it was like, oh, he didn't have a belly, but he ate that whole big cake. And so just like this week, he looks like this basically.
Like
well, the first
I was like, I don't think it works like that.
He like shows up at the beginning. He's eating
like cheese puffs.
And like he's wearing so much padding. His shoulders are like up to his ears. So he has like no neck.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's like a funny
looking, just it's goofy.
He's obviously in the same ilk as character wise as like Augustus Gloop. Like it's kind of the same idea, except Augustus Gloop gets like punished
For being gluttonous.
Dahlian for being kind of gluttonous, whereas Bruce is
punished, but by an evil character. So
Right.
you're not meant
He's
to
not punished.
understand him
Not
to be a
wins.
bad boy.
yeah.
Yeah.
I did like when he first showed
And
up.
the kid in the 90s version is a big boy.
Yes, yeah.
I do remember
Yes,
that.
I remember that. And
My
I love
association-
that montage of like him eating in slow motion
Yeah.
and the all black screen and just faces of the kids.
My only association with that, or my strong association with that scene, will always be when I worked at Autism Society of Minnesota at their summer camp. There was a kid who did that entire scene for the talent show where he played every character. It was truly phenomenal.
Oh my God. Did he eat the cake?
Yeah. I think we had to like make a cake for him to eat or something.
Wow.
Yeah, he had a cake somehow. He acquired a cake. That's a good
I
example.
also will say this too, the 96 version and this version, there's something, I mean, it's like the ideal childhood, like it's your dream to eat a whole fucking
cake.
chocolate
Yes.
cake. But they do such a good job of nailing that, like,
Oh shit! It's
it's
a huge
so
cake.
grotesque.
Yeah,
But it's like it looks like a really moist, delicious cake.
Yeah.
But it's consumed so ferociously that it's like, oh God.
Yeah,
I feel like
It is the scene that taught
body
every
horror.
child what the meaning of too much of a good thing is.
What's the painting
Yeah.
where it's like Saturn is eating his children? Like it's
Yeah,
very
I
that.
think it's called Saturn Eats Children, potentially. Yeah, it's called something like that. His eyes are like bulging out. He's like kind of looking at you. While he's,
Yes, yeah. I really have to be honest. The casting, they nailed the kids in this movie. Any of the kids that have a line, I was like, oh my
so
God.
charming.
So charming, so cute. Didn't feel like any of them were precocious either. I guess like maybe the girl who played Lavender, her like friend.
Yeah.
She was like the most kind of precocious one, but I think that's also kind of her character.
I will say to the diva in the beret and the blonde bob wig.
Oh.
When she in the beginning is like, you're gonna have to learn the hard way how it is to do shit here. Like we're not like you're gonna love phys ed because phys ed's gonna be where you're gonna get fucked up, whatever, blah 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 blah. And then as soon as
what she says verbatim in this children's movie.
absolutely, and then as soon as Trunchbull is like runs out. She's like, I have always stood for the revolution. You know, I've always believed that the revolution is the right way to do it, blah, blah, blah. Like, and
She's like the
song.
center of the song.
And I'm like,
and I think it's because she's like the featured dancer of the film,
Yeah.
which is fine.
Yes.
But it's so funny
so
because
funny,
she's
but-
the one at the beginning who's like, you have to follow the fucking rules, little bitch. And then at the end, she's like, I knew it, girl. Yes. Yes, queen.
oh my God, it's so funny.
Girly pop.
Yeah, the kids are great. I love
kids are
little
great.
Eric. Yeah, I really liked Bruce. Bruce was so funny.
Bruce
Yeah,
was
but I
really-
mean, the performance is great.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
the girl who
Bruce
plays Amanda, the one with the pigtails.
The pigtails,
She's
yes.
really
She's
funny.
great,
Her
yeah.
pigtails are so horrendously
Yeah.
like
They're so
manufactured.
forward on her head just to
Yes,
like
they're
make
like
you think
here.
about grabbing them at all times. Yeah.
Like antennae, like a
Yeah.
like a
Yes.
bug.
Honestly, it was a look. I think more children should do this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pigtails are cute. We gotta bring them back.
Yeah.
I love Bruce eating the cheese puffs because it looked like as if he didn't swallow.
You
It was
only ever
just-
see him chewing
Every
cheese
time
puffs.
they cut back, he's putting a new one in and chewing it. So I'm like, is he just swallowing?
He's 100% has the spit bucket next to him. He's just spitting it out each
Yeah.
time, but it's so funny.
So funny.
I loved the scene where Matilda covers for somebody by saying that he has narcolepsy, as if the
Yes.
school does not
Nigel.
collect that the school does not collect medical records on this child. Like Trunchbull wouldn't know that except
Wouldn't
for
know.
Matilda informing her that he has narcolepsy. No parent needed to like register that information with a nurse
Yeah,
or
yeah, yeah.
anything. Yeah.
But I also like that kid who played Nigel too. Like he at the beginning, he has that like freak out about the math on
Oh,
the
the
board.
math. He's like,
Yeah.
I can't stop.
It's really
That's
goofy.
the one who has the line about the brains coming out of her eyes, right?
Yes.
He was
Mhm.
so cute. Oh my gosh.
Telekinesis.
Telekinesis.
Well, that's the thing. I love goofy kids. Like when very Wayside Stories. Like you know what I mean? Like
Yes.
the kids have like different like things, like quirks, but they
Yeah.
all can still get together and like be in the same class. I think it's
Right.
fun.
Yeah, and it's not really like, I mean, I think like a strong thing about the story in general is like, it's not that Matilda comes in and she's othered because she's the new kid at school.
Right.
Like it's
Yeah.
not, she's just like, she just becomes a part of the class and then things happen.
Yeah. I
Where
love
it's like
that they were
so
giving
many
her
stories are like, oh, she's the new girl. Like so many boring stories that
Yeah.
kind of have that energy. And
I like that they were like giving her like contraband, basically like here's a candy bar. So
after she said no.
Yes.
Well, I think for the by and large, we liked the movie. I think it was a good time.
Say go and give it a watch, everybody.
Give it a watch. You can find it on Netflix really easily. All right.
Someday we'll be on Netflix, but for now,
let's move on.
We are revolting children living in revolting times. We sing revolting songs, we sing revolting rhymes. And we revolting children still are revolting stand. It is too early for you, for you, for you, for you, for you. Revolting children living in revolting times. We sing revolting songs, we sing revolting rhymes. And we revolting children still are revolting stand. It is too early for you, we are revolting.
So this has a 93% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. It is
yeah.
certified fresh. I have a couple excerpts here. This is from Justin Chang at the LA Times. He says, this leads to one of the movie's more strained conceits, borrowed but not improved from the stage show, in which Matilda cooks up a romantic tall tale, a circus set love story that holds up a fictional mirror to the main action. On stage, the device has a deft gossamer light magic. On screen, it's leaden and obvious. One of those strange faces we're seeing isn't quite believing. And it's not the only instance in which this Matilda the musical loses something in the transition from magically inspired stagecraft to solid proficient screen craft. Even some of the more riotous song and dance numbers feel more mechanical here, more artificially polished and hemmed in, especially when Matilda and her classmates seize the day with a joyous anthem of liberation called Revolting Children. For a movie that bristles with more revolutionary fervor than Dahl's quieter, more inward-focused story, Matilda the musical could use a little messier, more rambunctious energy. The focus and discipline of Warchus's direction is undeniable, perhaps to a fault. It's hard not to feel that a 2.5-hour show has been whittled down to within an inch of its upbeat, family-friendly life. The surges of emotion are still there, the final comeuppance is still rousing, even if the climax itself smothers its most electrifying twist with some predictably ostentatious visual effects. It all can't help but reinforce Dahl's point, as well as Matilda's own steadfast conviction that the screen really has nothing on the printed word. And then Anthony Lane at the New Yorker. So the New York, I don't think I've ever read a New Yorker review for the pod. Usually I don't, but the New Yorker, how they do it, since it's a weekly magazine, they like focus on 3 movies coming out that week, and they do like one kind of big summation of their reviews in one.
Okay, so it's like interwoven with reviews of other movies.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's because it's going to reference the other 2. Like Pinocchio, which had also just come out, the saga of Matilda goes where The Whale also had just come out, fears to tread into the murky and Dickensian comedy of abuse. Miss Trunchbull is descended from other principals whose names smell of torture, like Thomas Gradgrind in Hard Times or Wackford Squeers in Nicholas Nickleby, the first book that Matilda mentions in the film when asked what she's been reading of late. Of all the beneficiaries of Dickens, none have been more influential than Disney and Dahl. Both deal in the heartfelt popular grotesque. Turpitude spawns moral and physical gargoyles, whom the virtuous, preferably not simping but impish like Matilda, must learn to trounce. It seems fitting then that the best thing about Warchus's film should be the energy of the children. Confidently led by Weir, they swarm the screen. Picking up where the urchins of Oliver, 1968, left off, they hymn their climactic liberation with an anthem that binds the messy to the insurgent, glorying in the most Dahlian of all words, we're revolting. I chose this because our next movie is Oliver.
Oh.
So I was like, well, good segue.
And you wanted to practice some of your words of the day.
Yeah, turpitude.
Yeah.
Simpering but impish.
Yes. Energy.
Trounce. Energy.
Just words I'm learning new for the first time. There are so many great Letterboxd reviews. Okay.
This was peak of people's
Letterboxd.
People's Letterboxd brains activating.
Yeah. So here's some. By Abby, she gives it 4 stars and says Bruce 8.
Facts.
Jess gives it 4.5 stars and says, "Where's the revenge section? She's so me." Emma gave it 4 stars and said, "I just want to see Matilda's Goodreads account."
That one really got at him. Yeah.
That one really got me. I gotta be honest. Jay gives it 3 stars and said, "The person at fault, conservative funding cuts to education." Oh, and then Tom Capper says 3.5 stars. Stephen Graham with green hair is my Joker. The irony being, obviously, in the original, she puts peroxide in his hair, he turns blonde. Here, he has green hair, he kind of has orange skin, so he kind of looks like an Oompa Loompa. Obviously, a reference to Willy Wonka. Yeah, it was fun. Okay, MVPs. RJ, I'll let you go first.
Thank you. I'll take the lot, and I'll say Emma Thompson as Trunchbull. Kept the fun cartoonish sense of like of a children's media villain, right? But like moments that I think are very grotesque and terrifying still. I mean, like the prosthesis alone freaked me out sometimes. I was like, there are moments where I was like, I feel like I'm watching one of those like AI created videos of like her prosthetics looked so like crazy.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
The like jaw.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about, I watched a video the other day where there was like an interior designer talking about how unreliable technology is. And he was like, AI is going to take over the world. How about you get my speaker to consistently connect with my phone first? Okay.
Yeah. So I'm going to give it to Emma.
Emma great.
Thompson.
Molly?
I'm going to give it to Sindhu V, even though we didn't love the librarian sections. We didn't think that their inclusion was necessary. I did find her performance, both in that like it was so nice to have an adult that cared about Matilda the whole time, and also I thought that she was like having a good time. And I think sometimes, as we said, with the like, it's a little dour every once in a while in this musical, even though it's a magical kids movie. And so I felt like she was like the character that was the most kind of lighthearted and fun. And I liked when Matilda was telling her the story and then she goes, "We should call the police." I thought that was a good joke.
I didn't. I'm gonna. Okay, so I thought Molly was gonna say Lashana Lynch, so I had one. So I'm gonna give 2 MVPs. Okay. So the production design in this movie, I think, is incredible. I'm obsessed with it. I read where they shot, like the school, the hall they used to shoot the school is. I don't remember what it's called, but it's like a real place, obviously. But like so much of the set is so cool. I'm obsessed with the house, the peeling wallpaper in the stairwell. Like it was so indicative of like their kind of like plastic,
Smarmy.
not real light. Like it's all just a facade. It's David Hindle and Christian Huband were the production designers. So I just wanted to shout them out. I thought they were great, but I am going to give it to Lashana Lynch because I think we would be remiss not to talk about
celebrate Miss Honey
if we did not celebrate Miss Honey. And I've already talked about how good I thought she was. But I teared up. I teared up during my home or my house or my living space, whatever it was. I think she does a really good job in this movie. So
yeah.
Molly, do you have a closer?
Okay. Pick a children's movie or book that you think should be adapted into a musical.
Did we do this already? No.
We may have. I'm sure we've watched other things for children before.
Well, we definitely have watched other things for children.
Yeah.
Because I always say, well, my answer is always from the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler, which is like the brother and sister who.
Do you know what he's
Oh, really?
No.
Okay, look at it. Type it.
You've always said this like incredibly long, complicated title I've never heard of.
The Mixed Up Files. Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler. It's a novel about this brother and sister who run away to like sneak in the Metropolitan Museum.
1967.
Yes. They sneak into the Metropolitan Museum of Art to live to live inside it, which I think could be fun.
Is this the basis of Night at the Museum?
No, because there's no magic. They just
live there.
They just live there. That, or I already mentioned it, Sideways Stories of West Side.
That would be fun.
Sideways was great. I love.
Yeah. And that could be a fun, like, almost like You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, where it's just kind of like episodic, or, you know, like.
Yeah. I mean, so it would be like, you could make it like Sky High, that like Disney movie from like 2005 or whatever, where it's like kind of just like its own weird, quirky movie, but oft regarded as being very good. Do you have one, Molly?
I also have two. One, I feel like maybe someone has tried, which is the Phantom Toll Booth. I feel like that probably has some legs to be.
I wonder if that was just like a movie. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, it feels like kind of like an indie musical, like something that would be at isn't it like a Stage 76 or something in Chicago on the North Side? You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Fringy, something fringy.
Yeah. And then when RJ described his very famous book that he wants to base his off of, about the Living Metropolitan Museum, it made me think of another idea, which I think would actually slap as a Broadway musical, which is Eloise.
Oh, girl. Eloise.
Look, as much as I complain about New York-based musicals, Eloise at the Plaza
credit where credit is due.
Yes. Yeah.
One is already a musical, but I think it could be made into another musical and maybe even a movie. A movie musical, which is Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day.
Oh.
It's one of my favorite kids' books.
And there is a musical. She wrote the person who wrote the book wrote the musical.
There is a musical version of it. It's not great.
But it's fun.
It's fun. The other option is I don't even know if it would be good, but I loved the Boxcar Children growing up. And I do think like a little movie or a little Broadway musical of them would be really fun too.
Yeah.
Like Trains. We love Trains in a musical. Yeah.
I'm going to be honest. I'm going to say a third one. Shocked that the Chronicles of Narnia is not a musical.
I thought about that as an option.
Yeah.
You could get a Christian audience in there.
They're currently doing Lord of the Rings the musical right now
at Chicago Shakes.
And apparently it's very good.
Is it? Okay.
So.
Hey, look, I have often said this is something I genuinely have often said. Almost every musical, if you've said you've always loved From the Mix-Up Files of Mrs. Baisley Frankweiler. I've said that a million times before. And I've also said the premise of almost every musical sounds wild if you didn't know that it was already an actually pretty good musical. So I try not to judge. You have said that. Yeah, I try not to judge on the basis of, does that sound like a good musical? It's all about execution.
Yeah. I would also throw Madeline in there. Madeline is one of my beloved ones. I watched sure. I literally watched the cartoon.
And you could do so much with the walking 2x2 in line.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good night.
An American in Paris, Green Ballet at different iconic locations in Paris.
Totally.
Miss Clavel.
Good night, Miss Clavel.
And she's not a nun?
She is.
She is a nun?
She is a nun.
I just read a thing that was like she wasn't actually a nun. She just was their teacher.
And in the movie version, Frances McDormand played
Oh my God, that's right. Frances McDormand. Was Miss Clavel a nun?
I'm shocked there isn't like an American girl.
She looks quite nun-like to me.
Yes, that is she's wearing a habit. I don't know that
teachers ever wore full habits.
But yeah. Google says no, she was
Miss
not.
Clavel, Madeline's teacher and minder. She is commonly believed to be a Catholic nun because of her general appearance, but her attire is in Bemelman's illustrations is actually that of a nurse.
Oh,
the fact that she is not a nun is also evidenced by the fact that she is not called sister or mother.
She's the
that's true, Miss. Well, looks like Frances McDormand played her in a movie, and she certainly looks like she's a nun in this. So
yeah, she's praying, bitch.
Oh, for sure.
I don't know what else that could
be. I'm shocked the American Girls have not done a Follies musical, like a full Broadway musical.
Pleasant Roland might be too holding on to that. Pleasant Roland is from the Madison, Wisconsin area and is a major donor. She donated to the Madison Youth Arts Center. She was like the cornerstone donor, whatever you call the person who gives like the first big donation to get a project going. Basically,
we've definitely talked about American Girl, right?
No, Adam.
Molly, you're on Molly.
My sister had Molly.
Who was your favorite?
I had Kristen, Josefina, and Kit.
Kit Ridge.
Yeah.
Kit. I got Kit when I was like I was like on the cusp of being too old for them, but Kit was my grandmother's name and grew up in the 1930s. So my mom was like, we have to have this doll.
I see Kit for you.
Thank you. Kristen was my first one though.
Okay.
Yeah. And then my sister had Maggie and Addie.
Wow.
Love Addie. Okay.
Yeah, I'm shocked there isn't an American. We did an episode of Close Friends, which is our Did You Read the Group Chat Patreon exclusive, where we do dining reviews, and we reviewed the American Girl Cafe here in Chicago.
Oh, and did you go to that as a group of adults?
We did, yes.
And how was that experience?
The food was shockingly good.
I bet it was. Was it odd to be there without a child?
We were not the only adults.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Mom's
Okay.
bachelorette party.
A bachelorette party.
Yeah. Just like old girlies.
Because they serve alcohol.
Wow.
So you can really get down with your doll of choice.
Lit with
with Rebecca.
With Rebecca.
With Addie.
Have some Manischewitz with Rebecca. You know what I mean? Rebecca's my favorite doll. I want to put this on the record. I love Rebecca.
She's the Broadway girly? No,
she's the Jewish girlie from 1910 who's like, I'm too good for everybody here.
Who's the Broadway girly? Is there a Samantha? Is that real?
Samantha is like the Victorian. I mean, she is also too good for everybody, but I always wanted Samantha.
That's a running theme in many of the stories. Kristen is also Kristen's like, I'm dying. I have tuberculosis.
Yeah, Kristen was like on the Minnesota
prairie.
My mom had Felicity, which I think is like they wanted to like, they were like out of occasions to give us dolls, but they like, I don't know if they got a set or like what happened, but like anyway, we ended up with a Felicity that like did not belong to me or my sister officially. It belonged to my mom.
To the house. It was the house doll.
It was the house doll, but we didn't have a Samantha. So I always thought Samantha felt like the fanciest in my mind.
Yeah.
Because she's a fancy character, and then we like didn't even have the doll. So I think in my mind she was like more expensive or something because she's a fancy girl and we didn't have her.
Is Felicity the one from the South?
Felicity is the Revolutionary War one.
Revolutionary War. That's right.
Yes.
Wow.
But I think it was like Felicity, Samantha, Molly were like the original three, I want to say. And then I could say Kristen and Addie got added later. And then Josefina was even later. And then Kit. And then they started to do the like, now it's decades. Like, yeah. And like, now you can like just design one to look like you instead. Like they're not all historical anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad we really went on that long tangent.
And coming soon to an American Girl store near you, Matilda.
Goodbye. Thank you for listening to the best revival of a podcast, Showgays. You can find us on social media. Adam is at Adam Noecker on Twitter. RJ is at RJ Food Rocks on Instagram. And Molly is at Molly Matiny on Instagram. This episode was edited and mixed by Adam Noecker. This has been an Ampliverse production. You can find our show page and more information at theampliverse.com. If you'd like to send us your own takes on the movie we just watched, reach out to us via email and we might read it aloud on the show. Our email is showgazemoviemusical@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you find your podcasts. And as always, rate, review, and subscribe to help others find the show. And now, as always, the show must go on, so stick around to hear what we're going to be watching next episode.
Please, sir, I want some more.
More? The word for Oliver is more. It's much, much more than a musical. Oliver, the internationally famed stage triumph, now acclaimed by the international press as a monumental screen experience.
I'm reviewing the situation. Can a fella be a villain all his life?
Ron Moody as Fagin. Oliver Reed as Bill Sykes. Harry Seacombe as Mr. Bumble. Shady Wallace as Nancy. Mark Lester as Oliver. Jack Wilde as the artful Dodger.
He's gonna be a right little sight.
You'll hear 14 marvelous numbers, including As Long as He Needs Me and
Yes, I do. Anything for you. It's a fine life. It's a fine.
Remember our old tune, Be Black Moon.
Discovering voices, building worlds.